Everyone, hello, welcome. Hi, or ADs. Hi to all the members, participants. I see also from Refi. Hello, Kanga. I see, of course, Clucky, Blue, Hulk, Penguin Soldier, Jack. Thank you for being here. We are about to start. So today's the 14th subcommittee meeting. Of course, today is protocol scope. Let me start by answering there. Oh, okay, there was already answer to Clarky's question about foreign finance. AVC is in favor of the MIP 102. Yes, Clarky. Thank you so much. And okay, so as always, if this is your first time, we're going to share a Notion, all the links necessarily, so you can understand our position on and all the work that we are doing in the ABC. And if you're reading about us, and I think the most of the people that are here are recognized because the participant and attend most of the calls. And if you want to become an ABC, please delegate to one of our ADs that are also here. Shout out to them, Hulk, Clucky, Blue, Penguin Soldier, and Jack. Okay, so we have a guest from today that is Kris Kaczor, and we are discuss questions related to that involve this scope. I'm going to show you in a bit. I'm gonna go with this part. Okay, just in a bit. Before that, we are going to cover very briefly Rune's post. That was called the Next Generation Atlas and Governance AI Tools. Just with the most relevant information. Remember that tomorrow is also a call, so we're going to kind of like also a reminder to all the ABC's members, delegates to attend the call. And last but definitely not least, we're going to show you our DAO Toolkit proposal, some extra information, some more details. And of course, we are asking for your feedback. Okay, let me go back to the chat. So this is MIP 107. I'm going to share, oh, thank you for asking. I'm going to share also the link, protocol scope MIP 107. Oh, there. Thank you, Unknown Builder. Also, but I'm also sending the link. Okay. So I assume that most of you have seen the post, Rune's post a few days ago. And already there was a call, the first call. It was kind of like a community call. And it was in order to all of us collaborate on the new Atlas and governance AI tools for Endgame Phase 1 launch. So specifically for AVC members and aligned delegates. And so this is every Friday, although tomorrow there will be a call. Next week there won't because, of course, Ron's going to be in Korea and Singapore blockchains for to have this presentation about also the end game. Um, so just a friendly reminder that tomorrow there is a call. There is 4 to 6 p.m. CEST. Well, the last call was very general. It was because it was the first call. It was very kind of like not too technical, and also there were other topics that were mentioned. But in the post, not only it's about this community call is going to be. So we're putting these 2 topics that are the adaptive system dataset. It's basically a collection of all relevant information for the entire system. So here includes maker governance, the protocol, the community, principles, rules, historical data, call. Everything is going to be in here, all aspects of the system. And then we have the autonomous decision making. And this is, in theory, a fully bootstrap adaptive system dataset could autonomously predict optimal decisions for various events without human input. So in this part, there is, of course, because of the guide and all these AI tools, this is in order to improve participation, to make it easier. But then we'll see that the final situations are going to be made by humans. I don't know if anyone has a comment to this, but I'm pointing that out. And then they say the practicality of inputting all necessary data is limited in the current pre-AGI world. Governance processes can use human input to fill in missing data and course correct. And then we have this in using maker governance. Of course, this is in order to create a system where people collaborate with these aligned processes. And well, the goal of this is I think that this is both it's more in detail. So the atlas is going to contain different data that is going to be covering different aspects of the end game. Something else that is coming in here, it's of course the guides that are designed to facilitate easy participation in governance, because they automate interactions required for governance and for assisting users in understanding and in proposing and making decisions. Of course, this by using AI algorithms. And something as you mentioned with the guides, they are aimed at enhancing accessibility, and it's mentioned that it also wants to encourage contributors from different participants. And something that I would like to highlight is that even those without deep expertise. Something else to mention in here, of course, well, this is like a very summary in everything from the post. And oh yeah, something else to mention in here is about um the applications of the guide. So this includes, let's say, simplifying projects. This includes monitoring compliance by ecosystem contributors, translating content to different languages, and assisting in decision making. So the atlas is also intended to be adaptable for use by sub-DAOs in order to enable smaller branches of the organization to make use similar tools. Well, something that it's not in here, but I would like also to mention, it's about of course a Powerhouse. In the post, it also introduced Powerhouse, and a toolkit that acts as an interface for stakeholders to access the atlas data and use the capabilities of the guides. So Powerhouse is intended to make navigating all these difficulties of the atlas structure, to make it more user friendly, and in order to provide assistance to core stakeholders, in order to facilitate their engagement with all of this governance process. So overall, this development outlined, this aims to create an innovating system that is AI and these tools to enhance efficiency and inclusivity of decision making. Okay, hold on. Before we go to the next part, let's see if we have any. Okay. So we're going to move to our test. Just let me check if it's already here. Okay, I see in the audience people from Dewis. I see, I don't know if I'm pronouncing well, if I. And we're going to go with our guest for today. Okay, so we have Kris Kaczor. He is part of Phoenix Labs, and these are the topics that we're going to be discussing today. Let
Hey
me
everyone.
introduce. Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
We're going to start, but first, I would like you to give us an introduction about yourself, and please tell us very briefly about what has been your experience. I don't know if you want to already mention about Fitness Labs, and also before that.
Yeah, so I've been in blockchain space for several years. For a long time, I was associated with MakerDAO. Back in the foundation days, I was busy working on Oasis decks. And then I was part of the protocol engineering core unit for the DAO itself. And I was one of my responsibilities was developing DAI bridges for different layer 2s, mainly Optimism and Arbitrum. We're working with these teams for a very long time before they launched. And then in the meantime, I co-founded a company called L2Bit, Layer 2Bit, where we do risk assessment of different layer 2s. And we try to educate people about different risks of storing their assets on different layer 2s, as well as we provide basic statistics about TVL metrics and activity, TPS ones. And I co-founded the project, even though these days I'm not involved full-time in it. These days I'm working at Phoenix Apps, and we're contributing to Spark. I'm a product guy behind our new web app, decentralized web app, which is still in the works. I guess that's me. Answering to the question from the chat. Honestly, Taiwanese was a little bit before my times. Taiwanese was born in DApp Hub, I think ecosystem DApp Hub team, and it was a little bit before. I wasn't the part of smart contract team back in the foundation days, but Taiwanese was born even before that.
Interesting. Yeah, I think with L2B is amazing, says Kaczor, and interesting about Taiwanese. Yes, it's I saw also bringing not only where did I read about it? Here on the Discord. So I think it was many people like that. Okay, so now let's move on to the progress of Spark multi-chain development. So could you provide an update on the current status of Spark multi-chain's development, and also tell us what key milestones have been achieved, and what are the next steps in its development roadmap, please?
Yeah, so first of all, as far as I can tell, a lot of things changed since we were first thinking about, making MakerDAO fully cross-chain. And back in protocol engineering core unit days, we were thinking about moving basically MCD, the core vault system, into different chains. But these days, I think this idea is gone, and we're thinking more in terms of enabling different sub-DAOs to be able to go and explore other chains, as well as the DAO, the MakerDAO agrees. And to do that, we need to have this conduit system, and I think this is the very first milestone for full realization of multi-chain development. Not only Spark, but all other sub-DAOs. We need to have the DAO has to have a way to give this credit line, and these conduits and you can think about it as like a modern, more modern version of D3M modules, right? So from technical point of view, this is like the first huge milestone, and as far as I can tell, like the development is going pretty good on this front. But on the other hand, like just focusing on what Spark subDAO does, we published some time ago like our multi-chain strategy approach on the forum. And basically, we have this like two-phase strategy for rolling out on new chains. And basically, the first chain is like a permissionless deployment, where like community of a given chain can, like, first they need to make a proposal on the forum, but then they can basically deploy Sparkland on their chain, as well as they give like the subDAO proper governance, right, over the whole structure. And this means that also the community associated with a given chain would post like junior capital. So basically, it would work in the way that this doesn't require conduits. This doesn't require even like a MakerDAO governance vote. It's more like, someone deploys the Sparkland and configures it properly, so the full control is on the MakerDAO side, but it can kick off on its own, and it doesn't need a credit line from the MakerDAO itself. It's just rather junior capital provided by the chain community. And actually, there were like two proposals like this on the forum. One coming from Gnosis chain, which is old XDAI chain, and the other one is, as far as I remember, Polygon ZK EVM chain. So I think actually like the first cross-chain deployment, I mean the first deployment on the other chain of Sparkland is relatively close. But as I said, like this is the phase one deployment, and then the phase two would be providing like a credit line from the MakerDAO, which requires obviously a vote, and it also requires a conduits to work. So we're not there yet, but of course there's also a lot of like groundwork regarding risk assessment and so on, of like how much exposure MakerDAO wants to have on a given chain. And also like this is greatly dependent on the chain itself, right? Like some of these chains are actually layer 2s or rollups, like ZK EVM from Polygon, but the Gnosis chain is just like a side chain on one hand. On the other hand, is like very close with the DAI ecosystem, right? And DAI is the native currency there, so I assume that MakerDAO probably wants to support efforts like this, even though it's not layer 2, right? Yeah, I think that's it.
Huge milestones, and also listen to what you said, that development is doing pretty good, and all the first deployment, the phase two, you mentioned layer 2s, rollups. Okay, it's very good to know that you have that perspective. Now moving on to the next part, with the initial chain consideration and selection criteria, we have a couple of questions. So in the initial phase of choosing chains to integrate with, which specific chains are being evaluated? You already have mentioned some. could you elaborate on the criteria driving these selections, such as the TVL, such as decentralization metrics, or any other relevant factors, please?
Yeah, so it's not like I'm personally breaking any calls here, but I can give you my opinion on all of this. And as I mentioned, like different chains have totally different risk profiles, right? Like some of them are rollups, which tend to be pretty secure, but of course, like on L2Bit, you will actually find like what's the actual risk profile. And spoiler alert, it's not like even layer twos or rollups properly decentralized right now, right? So that's that. There's that, but also like there needs to be assessment on the TVL metrics, and like is there even a demand for something like this? And like generally speaking, I think there needs to be more and more efforts of like making DAI using DAI like incentivizing just at the beginning, like incentivizing DAI usage on different domains, right? And I think like the EDSR and DSR is like a move in the great direction, but as well like we have this huge like making SDAI, like savings DAI, or like Chai, or one of these, like basically having like a DSR on different domains is actually very important in like making like the creating demand for DAI on different chains, I think. And this is like, another thing that we need to focus, and we're focusing on from technical point of view.
That part, I'm going to say what you said, creating demand of DAI in different chains. Well, as I start present, I'm going to present again. There is a question on the chat, and it says, synchrotron ask, is the bridge executed on the cross chain forwarded to centralized?
I'm not sure which bridge executor are you talking about right now.
I would like to be more in detail. He's typing, so
yeah. I mean, if you're talking about the governance relay that is right now, deployed on Optimus and Arbitrum, and and I think also ZK Sync, like basically it works in the way that the layer one governance, like MakerDAO, is only on layer one. Can execute arbitrary code spell on layer two, right? And all the contracts on layer two, similar to layer one, right? Like there's a single like proxy contract, which is an owner of every single contract on layer two. And it can like, delegate call to a spell and execute some arbitrary code. And the layer one governance is in charge of this mechanism. So so it's not really different from layer one governance. Like so answering your second part of the question, yes, like this is mainly what it does, right? Like layer one governance calls something, calls the governance layer, and then governance layer calls layer two spell, and it's being executed on layer two. I hope it answers your question.
Thank you for answering, and thank you for your question. Also, synchrotron. Something that you mentioned before, it's about the fact that you're, I mean, making more effort at while making DAI or creating demand. You mentioned also the EDSR, the DSR, the SDAI. I don't know if you want to kind of like give us your insights on all of these proposals with the Ron's post about it. Do you have any comments on this about also the EDSR that was changed?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, you can clearly see that it's good for the DAI demand, right? DAI supply, right? EDSR, right? Like, I mean, this brief period of DAI being at like 8%. I mean, DSR being at 8% and stability fee being at like 3 something% was a little bit unhealthy, right? Because it just presented like a lot of arbitrage opportunities. But but now it's stability fee and DSR rate is back at 5%, and we can still see that the DAI demand, DAI supply is slowly growing. And I think it is great, like, what we should strive for, right? And this basically means that the larger blockchain community loves stablecoin yield, right? And yeah, I think it's great that we found this equilibrium, it seems, where the yield is high enough to incentivize people to switch to DAI from different stablecoins.
Okay. And keeping in that line about DAI, so let's move. Let's talk about approach to connecting DAI across chains. So when planning to establish connections for DAI on different chains, are you leaning towards leveraging existing bridge infrastructure or pursuing an independent development approach? Let's say it's similar to the Teleport project.
Yeah, so in general, I mean, DAI is permissionless, right? And it works out of the box, you can say, with any like existing bridging infrastructure, like, I don't know, Hop or Connex, whatever, as long as they want to, introduce it to their protocol. And I don't know, there are some market makers that want to market make in these protocols with DAI. So I believe, like, this is the way to go. Like, we should make it easy from like technical point of view to integrate DAI into this different existing infrastructure. And this is what we see right now, right? Like, DAI was one of the first stable coins that was introduced to Hop protocol, and people can like pretty easily exchange DAI across different chains, even though the Maker Teleport is not really operational, from what I can say. And also, like, coming back to Maker Teleport thing, it was designed with having the MCD on different chains, which, as I said before, is not going to happen from what I gather. And this mechanism will need some redesign in the future. But at the same time, like, DAI, I think, is is pretty easy to move across chains right now. But of course, like with some more like native piece of infrastructure, we could potentially make it cheaper for like bigger amounts of DAI to move between chains, like with super low fees and so on. And this is definitely something that I think is like important to work on.
You mentioned that Maker Teleport is not really operational. Can you please elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the details really right now. I don't have the stats, but as far as I could tell, this is actually the very last thing that I worked on while being part of Peku. But basically, the tech is done. Oracles, I think, are working, but there's no real simple UI to use it, and it also only works from optimistic rollup to layer one, right? Like from optimism or from arbitrum back to layer one, which makes it quite like constrained in its usability. But in principle, like this is the cheapest way, right, to withdraw huge amounts of DAI from layer twos. And I think now we need to gather everything that we learned and then design a new kind of system that would work in potentially with Sparkland directly, right? Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you so much for that. Now, let's move on to the existing infrastructure utilization. So if the decision is to use existing infrastructure for crossing connections, which specific infrastructure options are under consideration? And additionally, which teams or collaborators are you actually working with? There's another question. And what specific considerations guide your choice of partners? Let's say security, team reputation, technical expertise.
Yeah, so as I already mentioned, like, DAI is already existing in many of these cross-chain swap protocols, like, I don't know, Hop, Connex, some across and so on. And this is rather something that the protocols responsible for moving the assets around are like always striving to do is like to integrate DAI, because it's the most popular decentralized stablecoin, right? So that's why these integrations already exist. I think it's great, and I think as a DAO, we should support these kind of efforts wherever we can. There's like in future, like I imagine that there could exist like conduits that basically inject DAI liquidity directly to any of these protocols, and I would love to see such a future where we don't have to invent everything on our own, like inside of the MakerDAO, but rather like use existing infrastructure. I guess it also answers a little bit of the next question.
Yeah, you kind of did. There was another one when it's involved about the choice of cross-chain standard. So when aiming to establish connections between DAI and other chains, are you leaning towards adopting an extension of the ERC20 standard? And if so, which specific extension standard is being considered? Options like layers of T, accelerators ITS, or well, you mentioned a lot of connects. So connects ERC20, and what factors contribute to your choice?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not an expert in these like extensions, but I think from the user perspective, I mean, first of all, like apart from the developer perspective, like I think I'm personally like quite neutral, and the DAI is like permissionless. Anyone can try to make it work with their like bridging solution, right? And I think it's great like that we have like this plurality of different options. But from the user perspective, I think what's really important to have like some kind of way to understand like what's what, right? Like on some chains, there exist tokens that are called DAI, but no one really knows if how they got bridged, if they're like collateralized properly, and so on. Like I'm thinking mostly about sidechains right now, not about rollups, because in rollups this like bridging strategy is a little bit more is a little bit easier. But generally, like using, I guess, this ERC20 extension means like leaning like using one of these message cross-chain message protocols, right? And of course there are some read. So I think from the user perspective, there should be some kind of resource that enables people to just understand, like using this token called something DAI on this chain means that it was bridged like this, and there are the risks, right, associated with this token. And personally, I would like to see a resource that would present all of this information in like easy to digest way, like show the TVS of different tokens and the risks, and enable users to just pick something that works great for them, and like generally, maybe coming back to the previous questions, I like the tools that are kind of like abstracting the sorry, warriors. Sorry, I got the phone call. Yeah, generally, I like the tools that are kind of abstracting like the exact bridge details from the end users, and are like bridge aggregators, right? And we have solutions like Li-Fi or the other one called I forget the name, but anyway, like they even try to express the risks of particular bridges when bridging funds to the end users, and yeah, I think it's pretty great.
I agree with you. So you have mentioned that of course you don't want to be involved about the technical stuff, and what you said is that from user perspective, which is true, like well, users don't really care about what's going on the smart contract and everything, and they just really want to use it, for example, like DAI in order to solve a solution that they have in, for example, like here in Latin America, like inflation and everything. And so I'm very interested in what you said about the resource that anyone could present. I mean, this resource will be all of this information in order for users to find this information in a basic or simple way. Are you planning to build a tool like this?
I mean, as I said, like it would be great that if this would exist, right? I know, I know a project that has a lot of risk assets, but obviously I'm thinking now about L2Bit, and I know they created like a proposal to make our DAO ecosystem to work more closer together. But honestly, I'm not that involved these days in the project, and I don't know the details, and I don't know which stage this proposal is at. But I believe that such resource will be created sooner or later, because I think this is going to be really needed to make like cross-chain DAI.
100%. This is going to be really needed. Okay, let's move on to the chat. Jack asks, what's the expected pace of Spark deployments? One per quarter?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's all up to like community and I guess the huge factor will be here, like seeing how well or how bad already existing deployments are doing, and iterating over that, right? Like it's very hard to answer right now, I think. But we'll learn a lot after the first deployment, right? So I can't wait for that.
When it's going to be?
So again, I think it all depends on the Gnosis chain right now, as they're doing this permissionless deployment. But I believe it's going to be relatively soon. But keep in mind that it's going to be like the number, the amount of DAI possible to mint it on that chain won't be that high, because it's not the MakerDAO that provides the capital, but rather the chain community itself.
Okay, so Synchrotron says it also depends on how many new domain applications they get IIRC. Is that right?
Come again? I don't see this question. Or...
Oh, is the last one, because it's about also the question.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I know that a lot of ecosystems like Optimism or Arbitrum always wanted to have MakerDAO instance on their chain, but before that, from technical reasons, it was very hard to do. So now, once we solve these issues, I guess the floodgates will open, and we'll see much more applications.
Perfect. Now I'm going to read Pingle Solder's question. It says, any specific developer tools ideas that could increase the usage and integration of DAI maker vaults?
Yeah, I mean, I think like the biggest challenge on the integration front is not really DAI integration, but rather SDAI integration, right? And I mean, SDAI or any like other DSR wrapper, right? Like I believe that DAI shouldn't be used that much. Everyone should switch to some version of DAI, but plugged into DSR and tokenized, right? Like Chai or SDAI, right? And this is a little bit more problematic on technical front, because this is a token that its price is always increasing because of the fees that are occurring, and this makes like integration from technical point of view harder. It makes wallet integration harder because it's not a stable coin, right? But it's actually supporting this ERC for Vault. So actually, I hope that in the near future, wallet UIs will realize that it's actually like DAI that it's kept under the hood, and it's not gonna show that you hold like 10 S DAI worth 12 DAI, but rather it will tell you that you own 12 DAI in the form of like S DAI or something like this, and it will like do all the calculations under the hood. So I think like this is something that wallet developers should focus on. And on the Vault side, so with Sparkland is like a Aave fork, so there's a lot of existing tooling, like different like services like Summerfy or InstantApp or DeFi Saver that need to basically start supporting Spark, and they already did that. But now, once we move to different chains, like this has to happen all over again. Like have support for these different teams on across like multiple chains. And of course, like as I said, like Phoenix Apps develops like the new shiny UI for all things related to Spark, and I'm kind of excited about this, and I'm sure that it's gonna be also a pretty nice way to open not open the vault, but like borrow DAI. We don't have vaults anymore in Sparkland.
I was writing. Can you repeat again? Why
Yes.
DAI shouldn't be used that much?
Yeah. So answering your question, yes, as DAI integration is more important than DAI integration because as DAI is just like DAI but earning interest, right? The DSR, right? And for DAI holders, there is no additional risks involved other than I guess smart contract risks associated with the wrapper contract, but the yield is coming from the DAI borrowers, right? So the DAI is already internalizing all these risks, and just by using DAI instead of DSR enabled version of DAI, you're just missing on all the yield. So yes, I do believe that as DAI integration is like is like super important. Because it just by holding it you earn 5%, right? By holding DAI you earn 0%. So what's there not to like, right?
Interesting, very interesting. Thank you so much for your answer. Got it. I have one more. This is from Synchrotron. He says, but the majority of your growth will come from lending the allocator DAOs, correct? I make this interpretation because the product market fit for Spark sounds like it will be based on lending to allocators and using the base rate to lend or discount.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not sure how to answer this question. Maybe you can ask this question again when we have more members from Phoenix App.
Perfect. So we're going to save this interesting question.
Okay,
But Tadeusz,
that is,
this is,
yeah.
yeah. not letting to allocators. Allocators will supply in the Spark market. Thank you so much, Sadio. Glad to have you here. We have a couple more questions. This was longer than we expected. So the next question it's something also relevant, which is about contemplated security measures for breach hacks. So with the increasing concern over security, what specific security mechanisms or protocols are you considering or planning to implement to safeguard against potential hacks or breaches involving the cross-chain bridge for DAI?
Yeah, so so we're not in business of developing our own bridges, right? We're just gonna use whatever bridge exists out there, and for layer twos, usually there's like a native bridge, which doesn't carry a lot of like additional risks, because if it's broken, probably the whole construction is broken. That's the case for rollups at least. So we would just use that. But then, of course, the risk is what if whole domain goes belly up, or what if there is no native bridge. So if there is no native bridge, we could use just like a consensus of multiple bridges, and we should get something reasonable, I guess. Then. But then, as for like keeping the risk of the whole domain in check, this is what we have DATs for, right? Like once the conduit system is done, you would have like as far as I can tell, you would have like Sparkland for optimism conduit, right? And this conduit would have like its own that's right. Like for example, the DAO says that it's comfortable lending like up to 1 million DAI on optimism, right? And this means that if and this basically like keeps the risk of the whole of the whole protocol in check, right?
Okay, I was reading because now there is more comments on this. Yeah. So let me read it. So Socraton says it is important to know that although DAO 2 can provide the infrastructure to allow cross-chain deposits, this does not mean the domain will be allocated the selling capacity. Allocator DAOs are built to be competitive, so the yield product from the LT Park land instance needs to exceed what they will get elsewhere. Allocation is a zero-sum game. Allocators are normally charged the base rate, but Maker offers a discounted rate for decentralized strategic collateral, which is the focus of DAO 2. Okay. This due to this discount, the borrow rates on Sparkland should be lowest possible as they are equal to the DSR. Oh, thank you so much. This is a quote. I would like to send the link. Where is this from, please? Oh, perfect. There it is. Thank you so much. I don't know if there is any other questions or something else, Kris, that you would like to add.
No, I'm good. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk.
Oh, thank you for your time. Again, as I mentioned, this was longer than we expected. We still have one more topic to discuss, although we believe that we're going to continue with our proposal because we have here a proposal from the DAO Toolkit. And so we're going to continue this next call from this same scope. Thank you so much to the people, to our AEDs, and to everyone that asked questions, because remember that this is the only way that we can get more insights. And again, once again, to Kris for being here with us to explaining all this. And probably for a lot of people this is more clear, but there are also some things that are technical. So we are glad that we have you here. That will be all for today, and we'll see you next week. Because as you can see, we have our proposal to share with you all. Also, this is going to be in our document, so you could also, when we post it, you can give us feedback about this. That will be all. Bye bye, everyone. Let me go to the to here. We're still expecting our 80s proposals as well, feedback. And we're going to share the link of all the proposals so far. So again, we appreciate and value feedback from ADs, from Maker governance participants, and all members of the Maker ecosystem. And as always, we're going to see next week. The topic is stability scope. That will be all. And thank you for your time and attention. Bye bye.